Hello, in case you're new here, my name is Jamie, and I am so excited for today's video. I have a quiz ready to go with 10 paintings that are, let's say, less than ideal. It's your job to see how many of the art mistakes you can identify. So if you've watched those videos out there with artists sharing the biggest mistakes and the things holding you back in your art, you know the videos I'm talking about. If you've binged on those like I did when I started painting, then you should be good at this. All right, this is going to be fun. Quick disclaimer, I firmly believe that all art is subjective and there aren't truly any rules or do's and don'ts that you must follow. However, I do think that there's some merit in these so-called art mistakes, and today's paintings will help illustrate why it doesn't hurt to keep them in mind when creating your own art. I've always liked that quote that says, "To be aware of the rules so that you know when to break them." Something along those lines anyway. Okay, enough about that. Grab a pencil and a paper, or just keep track of your score on your fingers. I'll show you the painting, give you about 10 seconds to pinpoint the main problem with the artwork, and then I'll reveal the answer. Let's jump right into number 1. My examples will all be watercolor paintings, by the way, but these mistakes should really hold true throughout most art mediums. You have your answer ready? The answer is too busy. This painting is crowded and overworked. There's so much going on here, the viewer doesn't know where to start. There's no clear pathway for our eyes to follow, and aside from a small patch of sky here and there, there's no lightness or breathing room whatsoever. Moving on to number 2. Ready for the answer? This one also has to do with composition and layout. There's no sense of balance. Everything worth looking at is stacked on one side of the paper, while the opposite side is a barren wasteland, not a soul in sight. All right, a little bit dramatic, I know, but I think you get the point. Let's take a look at number 3. I think this one might be a little bit tricky to figure out. Ready? The answer is, there's no difference in the values. Do you see how nothing really stands out because it's lacking both lighter values and darker values? Pretty much all of the colors are smack dab right in the middle. If the water had a mix of lights and darks, we would have more movement. Or if the ducks had darker beaks and eyes, they might stand out more and be a lot more interesting to look at. Number 4. There might be a couple different issues with this silly little guy, but I think one will clearly stand out. And the answer is, there's no color harmony and too many colors. I actually used every single color from my palette, and now instead of working together, many of the colors are in direct competition with one another. On to number 5. I have a feeling most of you will get this one. The main problem is, it's too symmetrical. Yep, another composition issue. Embracing symmetry can certainly be a style choice for sure, but I don't think it works here. The piece does a good job of demonstrating the importance of composition and planning out your project. Right now, it's so awkward to look at, yet rearranging a few things could have made it drastically more appealing. Number 6. And the answer is, too much unnecessary detail. This is similar to number 1. Remember the one that was too busy? Well, too much detail can also lead to a feeling of chaos, with the painting being overworked and too crowded. Variety is important in art, and lacking any sense of looseness or lightness can be a bit much to take in. We don't need to see every single leaf, every individual brick, and each blade of grass. Number 7. This one I actually find super funny. I was laughing at it throughout the painting process. Are you ready for the answer? The proportions are way off. See how the sheep are the same size regardless of how far away they are? How large would that dude on the hill need to be in order to appear the same size as the one in the foreground? That farmer is raising some monster sheep. Let's take a look at number 8. Okay, so what's wrong with these leaves? The answer is there's not enough detail. This is the opposite problem that we saw with the house in number 6. The focal points can easily fade away when they lack detail. Even just adding a few defined lines in the veins would have drawn our eyes back in. It looks like someone painted a light wash, added midtone values, but forgot to include the darkest values and the important details. Oh yeah, that someone was me. It's funny, preparing this video was honestly a lesson in self-control. There were so many times I wanted to correct my mistakes, and it was almost painful to ignore my instincts and do the opposite. But I guess that's a good sign that certain habits have become ingrained into my routine. And we are almost done. Let's move on to number 9. These last two are going to be a little more challenging. I hope you're up for it. Okay, the answer is crisp background and blurry foreground. Now, unless you are severely farsighted and you refuse to wear your glasses, then you shouldn't be able to see crisp, clear images from far away, while the objects directly in front of you appear fuzzy and blurred. And again, this can sometimes be a style choice, but if you do this, just make sure it's with intention. Number 10. In my opinion, maybe the most difficult one to pinpoint. Okay, so the main problem with this painting is the foreground is comprised of light values and cool colors, while the background is full of dark values and warm colors. Similar to number 9, there are certain things that can be jarring to our eyes, and that's because in nature, things generally appear cooler and lighter when they're far away, and warmer and darker when closer. I'm throwing in one more for a chance at extra credit. This one should be fairly obvious. And the last art mistake is using the wrong supplies. I've painted on a thin piece of notebook paper, and it's clearly warped and curling. I was barely able to get my second layer on when the paper began breaking down. This sad little attempt at a painting, the odds were stacked against him from the get-go. I felt the need to include this one because while I was preparing for this video, I was using very poor quality paper that I purchased when I first started out. I didn't want to waste my good paper on pieces that were never meant to be anything impressive. And wow, I will tell you, I'd forgotten how difficult it is to work on super cheap paper. I was really struggling with these 10 paintings. And I don't think you need the most expensive art supplies by any means, but do give yourself a fighting chance. So please let me know in the comments what your score was. Those with the top scores will get a shout out in my next video, a little pat on the back for being able to identify the most common mistakes in art, the biggest problems holding us back, and the rules to be aware of so that we'll know when and how to break them. If you enjoy art content and want to learn along with me, then I'd like to invite you to subscribe. I'm about 2 years into my watercolor journey, and I'm often playing around with other mediums as well. So I hope you had fun with today's quiz, and thank you so much for watching.